takes you 6 hours of editing to come up with like a 60-second video. If you're a consistent content creator and you get good engagement, you can make multiple 6 figures a month. When you're thinking about glue, you're not thinking about glue, you're thinking about Fevicol. So that's the mode that Pedialyte created for itself. So similarly, I think every creator also on the platform, regardless of the niche, has a moat.
Hello BO family and welcome to the third episode of our podcast series. In this one, I talked to Shreyaa Kapoor, who's a very well-known finance content creator with over 7.5 lakh followers across different platforms. This podcast will give you a complete insight into a famous creator's life, how they make money and build their businesses. We dive deep into how the creator economy functions and also the downsides of being a creator. Shreya shares a lot of experiences from her life working with different brands, creators and agencies, and ultimately how she juggles her personal and professional life. Before we move forward, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And I really hope you enjoy this podcast, so let's just jump into it. Okay guys, so we have an auntie from South Delhi here.
Hi everyone.
Miss Shreyaa Kapoor. Shreya,
Yes.
I mean, people know you very well on Instagram, especially
I really hope so, yeah.
especially in the finance niche.
Yes.
But do they ever do people come up to you and they're like, "अरे आप तो वही South Delhi की auntie है ना या फिर वो आप तो वही."
It has happened once, I'm not gonna lie, but like apart from that, people just call me by my name, which I appreciate more. But it has happened once, and I kind of really enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, okay. But I would draw a line at like the point where they say कि अच्छा play करो अब इस character को. I'm like, bro, not right now. Yeah, but it has happened.
Got it. So ये characters आए कहाँ से? How did you even get around these characters that you have?
Yeah, so people think it's like a very deep process that I have, and like I'm a very creative person. I've been into acting a lot, that's how I know. But it's the absolute opposite. That's the truth. Like I've always been somebody who's been active behind the camera and not in front of it. I was not even involved in dramatics or anything like that. Not even close. In college or in school or anything like that. But I think there was this inherent fear of the camera. So when I started out, I was just telling Ritwij also this, that when I started out, I was doing static posts on Instagram. You can just go back and corroborate that fact also. But the point is that one of my reels went viral, which was just like my dad giving his opinion on the crypto portfolio. He was just laughing. That was it. And that video got like 7 million views in like a day or two.
Okay.
So I got like a major influx of influencers within like the first 10 days of me starting out my content journey. So I think that pushed me to make more reels or video content because I recognized very early on that that's exactly what's working on the platform. But now the impediment to the process was that I was very camera conscious. So I always thought that, okay, I can be camera conscious as like Shreyaa Kapoor as the identity. But if I come up with a different character, that character can be really confident. You know, so if I don't really look into the camera and look sideways and I play a character, I won't even get to know that I am speaking to the camera. So it was like a short-term tarika kind of to get over that fear quickly and to start making video content. So I remember one of the most early videos that I made, which was very character heavy, was this Munna Bhai versus Circuit wala.
I have seen that.
Yeah,
I've definitely
video which
seen
was
that.
so it's the Circuit character is only explaining what is like circuit in the stock market. So which I thought was a really cool wordplay there. And because Circuit as a character is so confident, right? In the movies you've seen him do his thing, not really be scared, not really care about anything else. So I think that character when I played it with that psyche that okay, that's what the character would do. And whatever fears I have to be left behind when I'm playing that character. So I think that's how it started out. But then as and when I sat down to create more characters, it was more about observing people around me. Because I recognize this very, very potently that finance is very overwhelming for people, right? I come from a finance background. So I understand that if I did not have that background, it would be very overwhelming for me to even understand the most basic concepts like what is a mutual fund, what are index funds, so on and so forth. There's a lot of jargon. So to make it less underwhelming, it's like my only agenda was to introduce characters that were relatable so that people want to sit through the entire skit knowing कि अच्छा हाँ यार इस आंटी को तो हम जानते हैं जो हमारी शादी की बात करती रहती है हर टाइम, या इस आंटी को तो हम जानते हैं जो लाइक थोड़ी सी बूजी है, या ये तो मेरी मम्मी है लिटरली, या फिर आई नो दिस वेस्ट दिल्ली गाय हु इज like showing off his dad's money. So that was the intent behind those characters. It was never like, oh, I want to make fun of a particular, character type or anything like that. It was just to make the content more relatable and more underwhelming for people so that they don't get overwhelmed by the information that's being provided.
Amazing.
So that was the idea.
I'm guessing a lot of your audience is from the north side because you do English, and and like the characters are, say, Delhi specific?
Yeah, that was the hypothesis that I had. But according to insights on Instagram, the majority of my audience is actually from Mumbai, and then
Oh.
it's Bangalore,
Wow.
and then it's Delhi.
What are you saying?
I'm not kidding.
Wow. Okay.
Which is brilliant. But I think it also makes sense because I think it's just interest based more, right? Like people in Mumbai and Bangalore probably want to know more about the startup space and finance space.
I think more
in comparison to
importantly, people from Mumbai and Bangalore want to make fun of the Delhi people, and
Maybe. And also the thing is, such characters you will find regardless of where you are. You know, like a bougie auntie, you'll find in South Bombay also.
Correct.
So it's like, she is characterized as this person who's like, oh, Chhatapur is the best and I can't step out of Sainik Farms. But you'll also find this auntie in Bandra.
Huh.
And you'll also find somebody like this in Bangalore. So I think that relatability continues across cities. Which is why it's working. I would want to believe that. So I think that's what it is.
Got it. Okay. But yeah, matlab, you're playing characters and you're trying to simplify finance.
Right.
First of all, we had spoken about this before also, but I want to get into it again.
Right.
The topics that you have in under finance, as far as I understand, me being a person who's not too heavy into finance content, right? There are very limited number of topics. There are limited number of things to talk about.
Right.
We at Barely Opinionated talk about what's happening currently, right? So we have never-ending topics.
Yeah.
But for people like you and other fintech finance creators, it's very difficult to come up with these topics. How are you even, getting into it? Like, how are you even finding so many topics to talk about?
So, Rohit, very honestly, that was like my initial hypothesis that, okay, like there are only so many things to talk about. You'll talk about, okay, mutual fund mein invest kar lo, index fund mein kar lo.
Correct.
You'll then talk about, acha, large cap fund hai, small cap hai. Then you'll talk about, acha, taxation dekh lo ab. Then you'll talk about, acha, insurance bhi dekh lete hain. Then you'll talk about, acha, emergency fund bhi bana lo. Fair. Like only 5-6 things to broadly cover, which is very, very true. But then I think finance as a niche is also ever evolving, number one. And also there are like so many ifs and buts to every rule that exists. So the permutations and combinations are endless. So the way I figured it out, for me personally, how it worked out was that once I covered the basics, I started really deep diving into the comments that I was getting and the DMs that I was getting. So if you go back to my reels even now, and there's something that I've mentioned on Samarth's podcast also, and they checked the hypothesis and came out to be true, is that if you go to my reels, you'll see that I try to reply to each and every comment regardless of the intent of the person. Like whether it's a hate comment, whether it's a positive feedback, negative feedback, whether it's purely like, oh, cringe content, stop making. Even if it's that comment, I will reply. I'll never delete your comment.
That's
or I'll
amazing.
never like mute or anything. It's okay if people want to give an opinion, that's great. On most days, I will take the feedback in a very, very, in the right spirit. Of course, everybody has their down days, right? Of course, that's when you don't...
Have you ever been in the situation where like, just screw you, man, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah, I've never done that. I've obviously thought that to myself, ki bhai chup kar ja. But I've never said that out loud. I'll be very honest, because I think it only gives them more validation that, oh, it's getting something out of you, right? So I never do that. I either don't reply to such comments, or I just reply with like as much kindness as I possibly can.
Got it,
as a
got it.
Delhiite. So I think that's pretty much it. But I think one positive that's come out of that experience is that not only have I gotten free feedback from people who didn't want me to improve, but ultimately I ended up improving because of them. Like somebody I remember commented saying कि क्या टट्टी audio है इसका, and I was like यार सही बोल रहा है ये बंदा. So that's when I invested in my first mic. So I was like thank you यार, like I never thought about it, honestly. Probably somebody from Delhi. Not even surprised, but awesome. So yeah, so basically the thing is that as active as you are in like your DMs and in your comments, that's the level of engagement that your audience also expects from you, and then they give feedback also. So if they see that a creator is not even responding to their DMs or their comments on a reel that they posted like an hour back, they'll stop commenting. And yeah, what I also understand is that that's what's the least I can do for my audience, very honestly, because when I see like videos on Instagram, I usually just double tap on it and then I move forward with my life. I never take out the time to comment on it. So if somebody's taking out the time to give you feedback, or if somebody's giving the time out to give you a compliment, the least amount of work that you can do is reply back with like, oh, thank you so much.
Correct.
So I think that's the least work that you can do for your audience, and I would want to do it for as long as it's like plausible for me. So my idea is that for the first 24 to 48 hours, I'm very, very active on the reel that I post. Very, like, I reply to every comment, every question, every if and but. And if I don't reply it there and then, because if I believe that, oh, the answer is going to be a lot more complicated than like one simple sentence, then I make a different reel on it.
Got it.
So yeah, so I think that's been my process and it's worked out wonderfully. To give you an example, I once made a reel on, oh, how do you get like a loan for cheap? And then somebody just randomly asked me this question, hey, is there a way for me to get like loan for absolutely free, like at 0% interest? And I was like, oh yeah, let me Google that. You know, that's an interesting question. I never even thought about it because I always assumed ki loan to chalo interest pe milega. But then I recognize that there are ways. Like you can get loan against your EPF. Not that I'm recommending it or anything, but there are ways is what all I'm saying. That there is an option.
Got it.
And I think as an finance influencer, that's also your job to tell people, okay, these are the avenues available, these are the risks and the pros and the cons, but now it's your decision. But like for me, it's just awareness.
Got it.
That at least you should know that, okay, if nothing works out, you can even take a loan at 0% interest against your EPF.
Got
if
it.
everything else is going wrong. So I think, and that reel got like crazy response. It got like 8-9 million views.
Wow. Okay.
So and it was a product of like me reading a simple comment. So I
Right.
think that's how important it is to engage with your audience.
Got it. Okay. Do you classify yourself as an influencer? Do you classify yourself as a content creator?
Purely from like I've always had this bias against influencers because I was somebody, when I was doing my consulting job, I was somebody who was actively making fun of people who were influencers. And now I regret that because my friends use that against me. They're like, oh, acha, tu to influencer ban gayi hai. But yeah, so, you know, I also always used to assume that, oh, like video content mein kya hi kar rahe hain wo 60 second ke liye, bas ye transition video kar rahe hain. Transition videos are so hard to make. I tried
so
making
difficult.
once. And I was like, ye kya hi, bas kapde to change kar rahe hain. But it takes you 6 hours of editing to come up with like a 60-second video. And that's when it hit me, dude, they're putting in so much work. And there's alag se anxiety also and
Correct.
depression also
Correct.
of like the algorithm. Plus, like, it's very, very time consuming. So I think I've got like a newfound respect for influencers. So I don't mind either of the tags. But I was definitely somebody who's been in that zone where I was like, arey, influencers. Ko
No,
to."
I think even I was there because I used to look at people like holding the phone and saying some crap and it going
Yeah.
viral, right?
Yeah.
And then there'll be other people who will just dance, make some random steps, and they'll go viral, right? And I was like, ye kya hai? But then when you actually do it, I tried doing those things. I'm like, fuck, that's so difficult.
Exactly. So I think what I learned in the process of becoming a content creator was that I just found so much respect for people who've been doing content creation for a while. Because I was like, how are they doing it for like the past 5-6 years? I've been doing it for like 6 months now and I'm already exhausted and burnt out. They've been doing it sustainably for 6 years. How is that possible? So, dude, like I had a newfound respect for like every influencer out there. I might not agree with what they do. I might not agree with what they say. But just the fact that they've been doing it for a while. And
Just that they're showing up and doing it.
exactly every day, regardless of what their mental health is, regardless of what is happening in their family, they're putting out content every day. I just had a newfound respect for everybody on the internet, honestly.
Okay, being an influencer is one thing, right?
Right.
But being a finance influencer is a whole nother load on your shoulders that I'm guessing is very difficult to handle.
Correct.
Finance influencers, especially, I don't think any other category of influencers are scrutinized as much as finance influencers are. And how, like, have you been in any sort of trouble in that sense?
Touch wood, I haven't been so far, and I would want to keep it that way. But I think it's all for the right reasons, no, Rohit. The thing is that when people are trusting us with their life savings and they're saying, okay, we will invest in this platform because Shreya said it, or like an XYZ finance influencer said it, who they've been trusting for a while now, it is also our responsibility to kind of do our due diligence. So I think all the restrictions that are in place are for the right reasons, and I
Correct.
totally support them. There's absolutely nothing wrong in it. Like, even today, if I am not... So, how I figure out if I want to work with a brand or not is that I put my money in the brand first. Regardless of the amount, whether it's a crypto platform when, you know, crypto is still the rage, or whether it's an investing platform, an alternative investing platform, or like a taxation, whatever is the tenant that they are a part of under finance, I always test out the product myself. usually get on a call with the content team or the founder if I possibly can, and then figure out, okay, dude, these were the problems that I faced, and I think these will also be the problems that my audience will face, because now I know my audience well enough, because they are smart people. So you can't just fool them around by saying कि अच्छा हम ये देंगे and suppose हम credit line देंगे और credit score effect नहीं होगा. मैंने बोला यार ऐसा audience है ही नहीं मेरा. They know कि effect होगा, but what is the solution that you are providing?
Got it.
So I've had those open conversations with founders, and like in fact only yesterday I had a call with like a credit card company, and I asked them all the hard questions, and some of the questions they didn't even have an answer to. So they said that we'll get back to you, but this was founder of a very big bank in India. Like the credit, the content. No, I'm not right now. But you can check out my partnership with them in the next month. But what I'm trying to say is that I tried to ask them all the right questions that were hard to ask. Questions I don't even think they were expecting somebody to ask them. They were just expecting that, oh, I'll be like, thank you for the opportunity, and ab aap paise transfer kar do. But that's not how it functions. If I personally wouldn't have used the product, if I feel like I would never use this product under any circumstances, I say no. And I, because of that, have had months where I've not done any brand deals.
Got it.
Because the kind of brands that I got, in fact, November was that month, like literally this past year, November was a month where I did one brand deal, which I am okay with until the fact that I'm working with brands that I believe in. So I have said categorically no to brands which I think are conflicting with my opinions. Like this really big brand, a bank in India, one of the biggest private banks in India, that's the biggest hint I can give, came to me and...
I see.
No, wrong. But I'm not going to name them. But anyway, like a very good bank, and I personally bank with them. So no hard feelings there. But they wanted me to promote a ULIP product.
Okay. Paying
really good money. And I said no. Like I didn't even hear the pitch. I didn't even get the brief. I said no outrightly. Regardless of, so that's what it is. Like if I feel that the product fundamentally stands against what I stand for, and fundamentally against the fact that I opt for this if somebody was telling me about it, would I put my money in this product? If the answer is no, I say no to the brand promotion, because I think you owe this much to your audience.
Got it. Okay. A very straightforward question. How much money do you make per reel? How much do you charge per reel?
So yeah, honestly, that is a function of like a lot of variables. I know this seems like I'm dodging the question, but that's the honest to God answer. So I'll tell you. So October usually is a very good month for creators.
No, so sorry, before you go ahead.
Yeah.
So as a content creator myself, as a person who's running a media brand,
right.
we have certain, say if some brand wants to come and promote, we of course have our due diligence that we do.
Right.
And then we have like a fixed price that we give to the brand according to what they're pushing. Is that not the case with all the creators? Is it dynamic pricing based on the brand?
Yes, to a very large extent. Especially that, at least that's how I function. So again, I'm sure you know this already, that it's a function of a lot of variables and not just the number of followers you have. It's also a function of, okay, what's the engagement that you're getting?
Correct.
What kind of audience do you serve?
Correct.
Right? Like if you are from a different niche altogether, a brand which is a fintech product would not give you that much money because they'll not get that ROI also, right? So, and similarly, a lifestyle brand will not give me that much money because I don't have the right audience for that. So it's a function of a lot of variables. But I think, and also it differs month by month, very honestly. So if I'm being 100% transparent, October generally is very good for creators because it's a festive month.
Diwali.
There's Diwali happening, and New Year's around the corner.
Right.
So there's a lot of optimism in the market.
Right.
But then all of a sudden you will see that November and December you see a huge dip. In comparison to October, because that suddenly becomes your baseline. As I mentioned, right, November was a very, very bad month for me revenue wise, but then October was the exact opposite. It's a function of a lot of things, but I do think that if you are consistent as a creator, so I think that's also very important. You can't do like 4 brand deals a month when you're putting out 5 reels a month, right? So that's really against the fundamentals.
Correct.
But if you're a consistent content creator and you get good engagement, you can make multiple 6 figures a month.
Got it. Okay, so you still didn't reveal the number.
Yeah, I don't think so. I will also.
Okay, I will guess. You just tell me hot or cold.
Higher or lower, I'll tell
Hot or cold, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Per reel.
But I can tell you the yearly average, I can't tell you like month-wise also, because I'm telling you, month-wise it differs so much.
Average bata do.
Average
6 months.
Average,
per reel you're charging 5 lakhs.
No, I wish. So again, dude, I do have like 6 lakh plus followers, but that's also not the kind of engagement I'm getting. No,
You're getting great engagement.
I am
What are you
getting great
saying? You're
engagement.
getting like 300, 400K views per reel.
yes, exactly. But you don't get paid like 1 rupee per view, na. That's not the rate in the market.
Actually, I've heard a lot of creators that charge that much, which is mind blowing to me. So,
Yaar, milwao
especially
usse.
finance influencers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
then
A lot of
probably
them.
undercharging. No, bro, but I also prefer working with a brand for a longer term duration, very honestly.
Correct.
So if I get involved with a brand, I don't mind charging them less money, but having like a long term commitment with them. So
Correct.
there have been brands which I've been using for the past 3-4 years now. Like if I have to name a few, it'll be like again, not sponsored by them, like sponsored, yes, but like I actually genuinely love the product. That's why I love working with them also. Like Cred is one example.
Cred, I use.
Yeah,
If
so
you wanna
Cred, I've
promote,
been-
if you wanna, sponsor this podcast.
I downloaded Cred the day I got my first credit card, which was back in 2018. So I've been using Cred since then. So it's been a while. So when Cred came to me for a paid partnership, it was like not even a question. I was like, dude, I love the product. Tell me where do I sign?
it would have felt like full circle moment.
It did.
No?
And then another brand like that is Small Case. Like I genuinely love the product so much that I've been using it for the past 2-3 years. So when such brands come up and they say, hey, do you want to do like a paid partnership? I'm like, yes, of course, because I genuinely love the product so much and my own money has been involved in the product so much and I understand it inside out that even if you don't send me a brief, I know the product. So it's fine.
Got it.
Don't even send me the brief. I'll write my script and I send it to you. So I prefer those longer term partnerships with brands, even if they pay me less, because I genuinely love the product so much. So I think that's again a function of how much you make as a creator. But I think I really don't care as much as like I know a lot of people, this is the only work they do. For me, that's not true, fortunately. So I am also a full-time freelancer and I work with like 2 US-based clients as like a content strategist. So for me, that also makes up a good chunk
of your money.
So for me, whatever I earn through content creation is like over and above what I really need to function as a human.
So that's your like party money, and
It's-
this is.
I'm not a
you don't
party person.
but yeah.
That's my investment money. So yeah, I invest.
Spoken like a true finance influencer.
Exactly. So whatever I earn through my freelancing, I try to spend it. Like I try to contribute to my family as much as I can because now I'm in a position where I can. I have a younger sibling, so I try to spoil him as much as I can
Aw,
because
nice.
he's still in college. I hate spending money on myself. I think that's the one mental block that I'm still trying to get over. But I love spending money on like my parents and my younger sibling. So I try and do that as much as I can. Apart from that, now I've taken out a studio on rent, so all of those expenses, my own, so camera and gears, these are very expensive by the way, I'm sure you know that already. So getting the equipment in place. So I use that money for that and then like investing back in the business. So whatever I earn through content creation is usually over and above
Got it.
every expense that I usually have. So yeah, that's about it.
Right. Now, when it comes to these creators as well, right, especially in the finance space,
Right.
when I look at a lot of the content that these finance influencers are creating, not the top ones. I'm not talking about you or Sharan or anyone, right? I'm talking about the people that are at like a 50K, 100K, 200K
Right.
level.
Micro
Influencers. They are the ones that are actually like, they're literally copy pasting your content. I feel like sometimes, as I'm sure you've faced a lot of such cases. And what do you think about it? So see, there is still like an artist, right, which a lot of creators like jazz over.
Yeah.
But how much can you steal
Like
until
an
you're I mean,
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, and that was something that bothered me for a very long period of time. I'm not even going to lie. Like, I remember October was the month where it really got to me because I was already going through something on a personal level, because family problems don't subside just like that. That also your life also keeps happening on the side. Your life is just not what happens on Instagram.
Correct.
So I was going through like a personal loss at home. And then I also saw this influx of... also my algorithm is now designed in a way where I see a lot of finance reels. Because I'm a content creator myself.
Correct.
I end up seeing a lot of finance reels. And sometimes I'm just thinking to myself, yaar, ye script suni सी लग रही है. या ये character बहुत similar लग रहा है. And that's when it hits me that, dude, this is like my script. These are my jokes. They didn't even bother editing that out. So October was the month when it really, really got to me. But then I talked to my dad about it. And I think he's the one who's really helped me in the process of it also. So he told me that if they're able to copy your content so easily, that's probably because your content is not good enough.
Ouch.
I was like, oh man,
Wow.
that's true. But I said that, yes, that's a hard pill to swallow, but it is true. Like if I can copy Rohit's content just like that in a heartbeat, then you need to up your game. So that's what I learned from him, because I think he comes from this perspective where he also has been a freelancer for the past 25 years. He has his own service
Okay.
business. He's a chartered accountant, but he has his own, firm. And he told me that, dude, this happens all the time. Like my own employees sometimes learn the skill and they open their own firm. But then how do I differentiate myself, no? Because once they learn the skill, you are a fungible token at the end of the day, right? So whether they take my service or they take the service of the next guy who's offering like 50% discount, it doesn't matter to the client. So how do I differentiate myself? So I think that was a hard pill for me to swallow, but I think the minute I kind of internalized this is when I got over it also very quickly. I was like, okay, what am I bringing to the table which no other creator can bring?
Got it.
So I think that I asked myself those hard questions, and ever since then I've been trying to pivot my own content. Like try to come up with new formats, trying to come up with new scripts, trying to come up with newer characters. So I think it was a lesson more than anything else.
And isn't it exhausting just thinking about creating content all the time?
It used to be, but I think now I'm at a place where I've figured out the balance. Definitely when I started out back in April of 2021, I remember just being up all night because I was under the impression that I'm a I'm a night creature. Yeah, nocturnal creature. Thank you for the word. And like I'll only get creative ideas at night. But then I had to actively sort of rewire my head and rewire my brain in a way that no, dude, like I have to function like a normal human being, not get burnt out, not get anxious every night, but still create content and make it sustainable.
Correct.
Otherwise, I'll only be able to create content for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
So I actively worked on it, yaar, and it touchwood has become a little better now. Not that every day I'm sleeping at like 10 and waking up at 6 a.m. That's not happened. But I try to, it's definitely better than it was a year back. So I think that's progress for me. And that's pretty much it. Like, yes, for your information, I've seen a creator copy my content in Kannada. So what he does is, I don't actually remember his name, otherwise I would have given him a shout out. But the problem is, he's just copying my content and creating it in a vernacular language.
And audiences are completely different, so
Exactly.
the audience also doesn't get to know.
So I only got to know about him because the algorithm would never show me that
Kannada
reel
content.
anyway, right? But a lot of people who were based out of Bangalore started tagging me in his reels. And that's how I got to know ki, oh bro, this is also happening. So Hindi, English content I still get to know, but vernacular language wala angle has also come in. But it's fine, yaar. Like I think like I've gotten over it now. Like I'm at a place where theek hai, aapko karna hai, copy aap karo. There are people who copied my content and have more followers than me now.
I mean, there's a saying, right? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yeah, but like
इतना flattery भी नहीं चाहिए.
उतना flattery भी नहीं चाहिए. That doesn't help at all actually. But I think what works is just understanding that that's something that comes with the occupation. Yeah, I mean, this is your differentiation and just make it stronger. Like, I personally believe that every creator has a moat. Just like every company has a moat, right? Like Warren Buffett said that if a company doesn't
Can you
have a moat...
explain moat, because a lot of our audience might not know what moat is?
Of course. So moat is like, what is your competitive advantage? So for example, Tata, the competitive advantage for Tata is the trust that people have. अब Tata कल salt बेचे, electric scooter बेचे, लोग खरीदेंगे. उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा कि Tata क्या बना रहा है, वो खरीदेंगे ही. But यही अगर Ola ले अपना electric scooter, तो people will think twice about it. So Ola doesn't have that moat yet, but Tata does. Again, like Pidilite, for example, is the moat is that they have the sole monopoly when it comes to the adhesive market, right? When you're thinking about glue, you're not thinking about glue, you're thinking about Fevicol. So that's the moat that Pidilite created for itself. So similarly, I think every creator also on the platform, regardless of the niche, has a moat. Okay, but what is it for you? Like, is it research? Is it editing? Is it script writing? Is it like your characters? Is it like your creativity? What is it? Then once you recognize that, sort of double down on it. I think October was the one month when I did that. I took a 1 week trip where I didn't post anything, and that's all I thought about. Like, okay, how am I different than, say, other creators? It's okay that I grow, that I have a more sustainable growth rather than like one reel suddenly getting a lot of views. Even though I do want that to happen. But if it's not happening, that's fine. Like, I think sustainable growth is okay as long as I believe in, like, I 100% believe in every piece of content that I'm putting out.
Got it.
So that's what it is for me at the end of the day.
Our content primarily goes on Instagram, and then we distribute it across different platforms.
Right.
And this year our focus is solely going to be YouTube, right?
Okay.
And one of the reasons for that is because Instagram as a platform, I would say, is I would use harsher words, but it's not good, right? What do you think about Instagram, because Instagram is your primary platform?
That's a good question, and that's something that I think about every day. Yeah, the only problem with Instagram right now is that even though the algorithm is great, like it'll show you everything that you're interested in, it's understood like audience perspective. Like they'll show you reels that you either would like or they think that like, so the algorithm is pretty much sorted, but the reach is like crazy. So one day you'll get like crazy reach for no reason, and you'll sit down to figure out, okay, why did that happen? But then similar video if you'll create the next day, you'll not get the same amount
Correct.
of like vanity metrics.
Correct.
But yeah, it used to bother me a lot because it started happening with brand reels also.
Yeah.
And then the problem is, आपकी reel के साथ हो रहा है, it's fine. Or ठीक है, you can still re-upload it the next day, or you can figure out a way around it. You can delete the reel. But when it's a brand reel, and that's also the only source of revenue that you're
Correct.
probably getting from the platform, you're not getting the reach also. So getting that brand again becomes a problem.
Correct.
So I've had days where I've had to go back to the brand and say, dude, the algorithm just, messed up. Can we re-upload it tomorrow? But sometimes that is also not an option, because if it's like, a campaign which is very time sensitive. Say for example, a Diwali campaign. उनको दिवाली से पहले ही करना है.
Correct.
और अगर आप पहले ही दिवाली वाले दिन कर रहे हो तो आप अगले दिन नहीं पोस्ट कर सकते. उनका वो दिवाली का वो खत्म ही हो जाएगा. So that sometimes backfires for sure. But I think again, like you have to just sort of accept it and then figure out what is the solution. Discussion तो आप कितना भी कर लो, algorithm को कितना भी कोस लो, but you have to kind of
Figure
learn
out.
to live with it. So something that I've started doing is again like diversifying content. So LinkedIn became like, that's how we
Primary,
met
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
So LinkedIn became one platform, and then YouTube Shorts can be the other platform, and then YouTube long form can be the next platform for you. Unfortunately, we don't have TikTok in India. So yeah, like figure out your alternatives and then figure out like how can you also make income when it's not dependent on the algorithm. Like
Correct.
figuring that out. Like say for example, I have my freelancing business. People come up with their courses or like e-products. So figure that out also as quickly as you possibly can.
So are you trying to move on to other platforms, or how long are you planning to stick to Instagram, or is Instagram your thing, and like Instagram is just a side gig for you and the main thing is say freelancing? What is it for you?
Oh no, it's actually the opposite.
Okay.
So freelancing for me is a side gig,
Side
and
gig.
content creation is something that so it's like an 80-20 split.
Got it.
I give 80% of my time to content creation and 20% to freelancing. That's how my time is split. That being said, when talking about the platforms, obviously for me, abhi ke liye the most primary jo platform which is Instagram. But I'm trying to come up on YouTube and trying to come up on YouTube Shops. LinkedIn, I think I already have like a
You have a good
significant-
following.
good number of following. I'm pretty happy with how LinkedIn is going. But I think the next platform to crack for me would be YouTube. But I think longer form content is just like a whole different game. So I'm still figuring things out, like still talking to people about it, like how did they figure out the game. And yeah, like still sort of internalizing the fact कि अच्छा 15 minute बोलना पड़ेगा, फिर 60 seconds नहीं बोलना. And also because inherently I've been somebody who's not very confident in front of the camera, I think it's more mental than like lack of topics or like not knowing what to say. I think I know exactly what to say. I know scripts. I know the topics I need to pick up. It's just the fear that, yeah, how will I speak in front of the camera for 15 minutes? So if you see my recent content, I've started speaking in front of the camera even on Instagram now. Like I've stopped, like even obviously I'm playing characters, but I've also started integrating that kind of content where I'm directly speaking to the camera.
You're directly explaining to the audience.
Yes. That's the model that I can stretch to YouTube now. So this is like my experimentation ground.
I think taking the whole role play model to YouTube, although very challenging, would be a good
I think a mixture of both would probably work better. Like you explaining certain concepts and then
like AVTV. Do you know AVTV?
Oh yeah. I think that would
Amazing,
be a
right?
very good idea. So yeah, something along those lines, right? Like that you're explaining something to the audience and then to
Role
simplify-
playing it in a funny
then
manner.
role playing comes in. I think that would be really great.
You were LinkedIn top voice in 2022. How did that happen?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I get a lot of DMs on an everyday basis that, hey, like what's the process of getting LinkedIn top voice? Like do you have to apply somewhere? And even you were LinkedIn top voice.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wish, but
Okay, sorry. But
आपने
sorry, yaar, I wasn't aware.
chill. relax.
Anyway, so yeah, actually how I started out on LinkedIn was also like a happy accident, just like Instagram. So one of the creator managers from LinkedIn is actually a really good friend of mine who used to work with me in Bain.
Okay.
Akanksha Monga, if you know. I'm sure you know her.
Right,
She's like
yeah,
a brilliant travel creator. So she was at the time working with LinkedIn and she reached out to me saying that, dude, I really like your content. Why don't you repurpose it also on LinkedIn, like the captions and everything? So I was like, yeah, I probably should. Like that wouldn't even take that that much effort. It's not like creating a video. Creating a video takes a lot more effort than like just writing.
Right.
Writing anyway comes more naturally to me. So I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And this was about like 8 months back. Probably beginning of 2022 is when she reached out to me with such messages, and that's when I started experimenting with LinkedIn. I think what worked with me on LinkedIn was that I just had such a diverse background because I had done consulting, but then I'd also done freelancing, and I'd also done content creation. So I think I was talking about everything, so that got people involved. That okay, how do we pivot? If you want to pivot from like say a high-paying job to starting everything from scratch. So I think that became the early theme of my LinkedIn page, and I think people really resonated with that idea. So I think one of the first posts that went viral for me on LinkedIn was how do you pivot? How do you figure out your passion? So everybody talks about ki acha passion follow karo, but like to a layman, how do you how do you figure out your passion? Now, if I tujhse पूछूं, so nobody really gives you an answer to that. Everybody's like, acha follow your passion, then you'll not work another day.
और generic सा कुछ बोल देंगे.
Generic सा बोल देंगे. But because I actually figured it out for myself, so I just shared my experience, and I think that was one of the first posts that went really viral for me on LinkedIn. And yeah, ever since then, LinkedIn is a platform which is more like, I said, a therapy session for me. Ki, acha, whatever I'm feeling or whatever I'm thinking at the day, I probably jot down my thoughts about it on LinkedIn. And I think people really appreciate the transparency. So I get a lot of comments around the fact that they really, really appreciate the fact that I'm very honest and I don't try to hide things behind like numbers and like jargon.
Got it.
I try to simplify it as much as I possibly can, even on LinkedIn, whether it's my freelancing journey, whether it's the idea that, okay, how did I get my first international client, for example, as a freelancer, or whether it is, okay, how do you pivot from a high paying job to like starting something from the very scratch, or whether it's, how do you figure out your moat as a creator.
Got it.
So these are all the things that I've faced personally as problems, and something
other
that
people also face, and you just talk about it so that they...
Correct. And I try to talk about it in a way that, dude, it's relatable. Like if I can do it, you can do it.
Correct.
Not in a way that, oh yaar, I'm a $1 billion startup founder, तो मैंने तो कर लिया है, but probably तुम नहीं कर पाओगे. So it's that. Like I think that's why LinkedIn sort of worked out for me.
So I noticed there were about 10 top voices, right?
Right.
And a lot of them were influencers from Instagram itself. You
Could
were
be.
there, Sharon was there.
Yeah, even Ayush
Shukla was there.
Right.
Is LinkedIn trying, what do you think? Is LinkedIn, because now we met through the LinkedIn creator program
Correct.
2 days ago, right? And I feel like they are trying to get the creators on board to pull their audience to the platform. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think LinkedIn gave me Top Voice award not because I was big on Instagram, but because I was probably making sense on LinkedIn as a platform.
Got it.
I don't think they're trying to steal audience from another platform.
They just want the content create, because you are a good content creator. They want you to create your own content on
I think also the kind of audience that they're targeting on LinkedIn is very different from the audience on Instagram or YouTube or Twitter. And that's something that we talked about even in the LinkedIn office, right? So I don't think that's the agenda at all. I think they are just playing a probability game that, okay, if this person is comfortable enough creating content on Instagram, they will be open to the idea of creating content on LinkedIn. I think that's the game they're playing. But when I met like other top voices on when we met like 2 days back, most of them were not that big on Instagram, if you think about it. They're just big on LinkedIn, and that's their niche, and most of them are not even doing content creation full time, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
Like you remember the conversation we had, we were probably the only two people who were like,
we both were literally the only content creators professionally.
And everybody else was like either from a psychology background or from like a law background. I was so surprised that
corporate background, startup
and that they have like their own stories and they have their own full-time jobs, and LinkedIn is just like another platform for them.
Correct.
So I think LinkedIn is playing a very different game than Instagram is playing. So I don't agree with that at all, actually.
Got it. Okay, cool. ठीक है, हमने काफी we've spoken a lot about the general side of content creation. I want to go into the backside, behind the curtain side of it.
Yeah.
First of all, let's talk from the agency point of view, right? When you look at, forget about content creators, when you look at like celebrities, when you look at musicians, right? They have a lot of issues with their agencies, right? There's some or the other conflict that they're having with their agencies because of copyright issues, because of content being stolen, or because of them not being paid enough, or whatever it is.
Right.
Is that the same thing in content creation right now?
Yeah, I can only speak for finance as a niche because That's what I understand the best. I think I have been in that position, I'm not gonna lie, where I thought that, oh, like I'm probably not getting my worth, or like more could be done. But I think that was my immaturity more than anything else. It's more about just communication. I think there's a lack of that right now in the market. We just form our own silos and then we overthink the problem. So the minute I started reaching out to my agency and started having like open conversations about it, I figured that most of it was just in my head.
Right.
So
You become insecure about things.
I think that's exactly what it is. So if at all you're facing a problem with your manager or your agency that you're working with, try to have an open communication, because the thing is, your growth is also very important to them.
Correct.
Because their revenue is also tied to your revenue. So I don't think they want the worst for you. So just try to have like an open conversation if at all you're working with an agency and you're facing a problem. Because in all likelihood, they're working in your favor and not against you. But I think having that first open discussion, because people kind of want to avoid that at all cost. People don't want to confront the other person.
Confrontation is very difficult.
Yes, but the minute you figure that out, I think you win half the battle. So the minute I think I figured it out, I started having like a normal one-on-one human-to-human conversation with like my manager and like with my agency and other people within the agency and other creators. I very quickly realized that I was just living in a bubble and most of it is not true. See, I'm not saying that, oh, like agency is the only way to, to make it.
Correct.
Not at all.
Correct.
You can, like I know a lot of creators who
don't have an agency.
Who don't have an agency, they're killing it.
Correct.
Both on YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn, every platform.
Correct. Agency is a good add-on to have, but before you go ahead, one thing about agencies is that you spoke about agency would want to do everything in your favor.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's beneficial for them as well.
Correct.
But you are a single creator.
Right.
But agency has like 10, 20 different creators, and particularly maybe in the similar niche as well.
Yes.
Correct? Maybe they are prioritizing other creators over you.
So then ask yourself the question that why are they prioritizing a certain creator? Is it because they're giving them more promises? Is it because the audience likes that creator
That
a
gets
lot
probably
more?
better.
Yeah. I know that's a hard pill to
thing,
swallow.
yeah.
But the minute you recognize that you're probably not being favored is because you're
Not
probably not good. Is the minute you start to look at the problem internally rather than fixating it on like an external
Someone
factor.
else.
So yeah, like think about it. Is that person, guy or a girl, giving better numbers to the agency? Is it because the brands prefer that person over you? Like what is it? And then try to take inspiration from it and try to improve yourself more than like figuring out कि अच्छा अरे उसका तो bias है. So the bias is stemming from something.
Correct.
You need to understand what that motivation is and then sort of figure it out for yourself. And if you still feel it's unfair, switch agencies. You don't even have to have an agency. So that's always an option, but all I'm saying is that before you come to that conclusion and you fixate the problem on a third party, try to fixate the problem and try to figure it out internally
yourself.
first. So I think that would be my go-to solution.
What has been the most nightmare scenario? What has been your most nightmare scenario working with an agency?
Working with an agency? Honestly, I haven't had any. I've had nightmare scenarios with creators and I've had nightmare scenarios with brands.
Okay, let's go one by one. Nightmare scenario.
But I've never had like a nightmare scenario because of the agency.
Correct.
And luckily, keeping the agency aside, okay, abhi usko dur rakhte hain. For you, the agency is usually your manager. And shout out to like both the managers that I've had in the past. One of them was Piers and the other one was Siddharth. I know they're not very popular as much as Ayush is, who's the founder for Finance.
Siddharth
Oswal, yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's one of, correct.
Yeah, so he's my current manager. And that dude is brilliant. Like, I remember when we hung out in Dubai, we could talk about literally everything. We were not even talking about like brand and commercials. And like, he is the age of my younger brother. So I look at him that way. So I gave him like a lot of life advice, aise gyan. But he gave me more gyan. So I was like, oh, this is amazing. And even yesterday, I hung out with him, so I had to go to a couple of places, like I had back-to-back meetings, and he was just sweet enough to like come along, even though he didn't have to. So, like once you kind of form like a human connection with your manager and your agency, I think things just become better. And they start, and your success even becomes more important to them than it previously was. So I think that's probably step on number one. And Siddharth and like both my managers, even Piers in the past, both of them were so outright कि अच्छा यार आप हमें बताओ आपको किस ब्रांड के साथ काम करना है, we'll reach out. आपको barter collab करना है, we'll reach out. You don't even have to do that. So I think both of them have been wonderful to my success, and I don't think I would be as confident as I am as a creator today if it were not for specifically Siddharth and Piers. You know, not even Ayush. Like just Siddharth and Piers. Like of course Finette has a role to play, but I think my
Them individually
managers
have-
personally have been my biggest cheerleaders, and for me that has changed the game.
So shout out Siddharth. So
Yes.
Siddharth also takes care of branding for a little bit of here and there. He gives.
Yes,
some-
of course,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course. So yeah, Siddharth, if you're watching this, and I really hope you are, I expect
We'll make
full
sure he
payment.
watches.
I don't
Show
want
us
to
the
take-
money.
I don't want you to take commission this month. But yeah, wonderful people.
So okay, now nightmare scenarios with creators. How are what is it like interacting with big creators? Because see,
Yeah.
for me, I'm a drop in the whole ocean,
so am I.
right?
So am I, dude.
But
Everybody's
you're
a
like a
drop-in.
bigger drop than I am. I
Chalo,
could
I
say.
would want to believe that.
So what is it like interacting with the bigger creators? Have you like we were talking about previously, right? Don't meet your heroes in real life. Has that case been proven true to you now?
Not really. I'll tell you why. So the thing is, I learned that very early on, especially because as a child I was a Michael Jackson fan.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of these news came out about Michael Jackson. I was like, oh shit. But I was like, मेरे को तो फिर भी Smooth Criminal तो सुनना ही पड़ेगा. That was my jam as a kid.
वो भी R Kelly का भी same.
Exactly. So I was like, पर यार मेरे को तो सुनना ही है ये. So I think that incident taught me very early on that I need to separate the art from the artist. So when that Dubai conference happened and a lot of creators we met at
This
the NAS
is the
Summit,
1 billion
1 billion NAS Summit. So all of us were in Dubai. So I met like really big creators, and some of them were really humble and really, really sweet to talk to. And you don't expect somebody with that number of following to be the kind of people they are.
Correct.
But then you always meet the opposite, like yin to the yang, right? So, but I think I've very easily figured out that I respect them as a creator. I don't really have to respect them as a human being, and that's fine. Because it's just that not everyone, they don't have to be perfect in every aspect, and you have to make peace with it. They can be really, really good as creators or editors or like a storyteller or whatever, and they could be really good at what they do, but they could still be like shitty human beings, and that's okay. You know, and that's not what you looked up to them for anyway. So, you know, separate the art from the artist. So if you might like my content, but you might find me very annoying. A lot of my friends do. So that's perfectly acceptable, right? Like when you separate the creation from the creator, I think you mature overnight. So I think do that. So I wasn't really disappointed at all. I just got what I was expecting. So that's what happened.
ठीक है, creators का तो वो हमने like we spoke about the creators. What about no, we spoke about agencies. Now what about like working with creators? How has it been? Like we spoke about meeting your heroes, right?
Yeah.
But उसके बाद भी I'm sure there are a lot of people, because you're so big on Instagram as of now, and there are so many people that rely on you for information. I'm sure creators keep reaching out to you कि यार let's do a collab, let's do a collab. Has there been situations where you're just like, no, I don't like your content, I just don't want to do it with you?
So for me, the only metric is that what are you bringing to the table? I don't care about the vanity metrics at all.
Really?
And to give you a case in point, one of the best collaborations, the one that I enjoyed the most, was with the guy who had like 9,000 followers. And this
Whoa.
is 2 months back. So it's not like, oh, ek saal pehle I did it. And I didn't do it out of favor. In fact, I reached out to him. So he's a guy who talks very categorically about credit cards and very in-depth.
Okay.
And I see not a lot of people doing that. So I was like, hey, I think you can bring something to the table that I individually cannot.
Got it.
So let's collaborate.
Got it.
So I think that is what my ideology is when I'm doing a collaboration, rather than कि अच्छा उसके ज़्यादा follower है तो उसके साथ collab कर लेते हैं. If I believe that you bring something to the table that will add value to my audience also, regardless of the niche, I'll collaborate. So I've done a lot of my collaborations have been with like, I did a collaboration with Divija, who's like a psychologist, right? Like,
Okay.
so nothing to do with money, but I collaborated with her because I think she has that background in psychology and I have that background in finance, so we can talk about psychology and money.
Correct.
So that's a beautiful sort of intersection to talk about, which I don't think a lot of other creators can bring to the table, apart from her. Then I did, one of my favorite collaborations was actually with Satya Shah, who's like a comedy creator.
Of course, we love her.
And yeah, who doesn't actually, right? So just collaborating with her, we talked about like, okay, how do we get trapped in like these money traps that are there in a very funny way. So collaborating with her was like a dream for me, right? Like she was one of my favorite creators, still is. And like collaborating with her, even though I at the time had more followers, didn't matter because I thought that she's bringing to the table that something I can't individually. So for me, that is a bigger litmus test rather than कि अच्छा उसके क्या number of follower है या उसके क्या engagement है. I don't care about that as long as I think that both of the audiences can benefit from the collaboration.
Who is the most famous person you have interacted with or collaborated with? Interacted with separate and collaborated or worked with separate?
Interacted with is probably Ali Abdal
Ooh, nice.
in the Dubai summit.
The 1 billion summit organized
Exactly.
by
Nas.
Nas.
So I think Ali Abdal, and also he's one of my favorite. I think that's true for everyone, but he's my favorite YouTubers of all time.
A lot of the educational content creators, especially people that talk about productivity and stuff,
Right.
are mostly influenced by Ali Abdal.
Ali Abdal, 110%. And also I fangirled him. I fangirled over him to a level where I was like, oh, उसका birthday कब आता है? And then I checked कि उसका birthday 13th में को आता है. My birthday is on 14th में.
Ooh.
So for a day I was like, oh my god, हम दोनों का same sun sign है. I don't even believe in sun signs, but I was like, wow, Ali Abdal and I have the same sun sign. So that level of craziness, okay? So when I met him, I was just like, oh my god, you know? So yeah, he's probably the most popular content creator I've met. Apart from him, I've also met Rachna Ranade. You know, so again, either Dubai.
The
Summit.
OG finance.
Yeah.
creator.
And I told her that like you are the reason why I started creating content, and I literally grew up watching your content. So just meeting your heroes that way, and she's literally the best person ever. Like she's so humble and down to earth that you won't even know how many followers she has from like the way she makes you feel. Like she makes you so comfortable and like will have a very pleasant conversation with you. So she's like a gem of a person also, regardless of the
Right.
number of followers. So that is one hero that I don't regret meeting. So those two would probably be the biggest creators I've met. In terms of who I've collaborated with, biggest in terms of like the number of followers, is that
I mean,
the question?
vanity metrics, yeah, I think.
Um,
Or reputation, if you would say.
probably Sharan.
Sharan?
Yeah.
He recently went on a billboard as well, right?
Yeah, he did. That's so
Where-
cool.
for Ditto,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah. Do you want to be on a billboard?
Yaar,
I'm sure you're gonna be there in like I'm gonna see you in like the next 2-3 months on a billboard
but
for
like
sure.
it's never been like a dream.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like,
हो गया तो अच्छा है.
it's a good to have thing, but like it's not on my vision board. That's what it is. I think Sharan wanted that. You know, he I think he went to Mumbai for like such things to happen. He shifted from Bangalore to there.
Correct.
And that's been on his priority list. And I think it's great that it's happening for him. And with a company like Ditto, right? Like which is a brilliant product anyway. But I think for me, it'll be, if at all it happens, like, I'm too camera shy, I don't think I'll be able to even look in the camera to give the look that's required for a billboard. But that being said, it's a good to have thing for me, definitely. I can flex for a day or two. जब तक मेरे फ्रेंड्स मेरे को फिर से ऐसे humble down नहीं कर देते कि भाई चुप कर. And like my own sibling really humbles me, honestly. He's like कि तू चुपचाप अपने कमरे में जा. But it's a good to have thing, but it's not on my vision board, like very honestly. I'm fine if it never happens. I'll be fine with it.
And what has been like the worst experience of interacting with a creator? Of course, you don't have to name the creator.
Right.
But the worst interaction of working with a creator, because I have interacted with people that are just the worst to it. Like, I would name and shame them honestly, but I don't think I'm in a position to.
Yeah,
be
let's
able
not. It'll make me really uncomfortable. I'll be like, okay.
But yeah, I'm sure you have had those situations as well.
Yeah, I haven't had like a bad interaction with a creator as such, and especially the people that I've collaborated with, because I genuinely try to form like a human connection with them first before I just send out a message कि अच्छा चलो let's collaborate. So even if I don't know a creator and I really want to collaborate with them, so case in point is Tanya, who's like a travel creator, again, a very, very good travel creator, has like 1 million followers on YouTube, which is the bigger
wow,
thing.
nice.
Tanya Khanjau, again, one of my favorite YouTube travel creators. So I really wanted to collaborate with her because I think travel and finance is like a really trendy topic.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to reach out to her. And before I reached out to her for like a collaboration, I also said that, hey, can we get on like a Zoom call if you have the time? Because I've always like fangirled over you. And now she's like one of my better friends as a creator. Like she's one of the,
a good friend
a good friend of mine. And she's luckily also based out of like Delhi, Gurgaon. So we've met quite a few times. So it's great. Like I actually interacted with her for an hour, just like as an introduction session, even before we collaborated. So I think that was amazing.
Nice.
So I've met some really amazing people because I wanted to collaborate with them. But I think the worst interaction I had was when I was starting out as a creator. Now these things don't affect me. But when I was starting out as a creator, I remember I started getting a lot of hate. And then a really big influencer said that, oh yeah, all she does is copy content. And the thing is, you can say anything about me. You can say cringe content and I'll be like, हाँ ठीक है, है cringe. But the minute you say that I copy content, because that's the one thing that I was trying not to do at the time, I was like, yeah, I'll try and be as original as I can. And I think that kind of also outshines in my content that, oh, like this script you probably wouldn't have heard anywhere else, or this character you wouldn't have probably seen anyone else play, at least in the finance niche. So when people started saying that, oh, all she does is like copy content, that hit me. And at the time I was like at 30,000 followers, and a really big creator said that, oh yeah, that's all she does. And that was when it hit me, and I remember it took a toll on me.
I'm sure it would have.
I was just a very small creator, just started out. Also in that pandemic zone, right? Like May 2021, June 2021, obviously not
Everything
doing
was going haywire.
haywire, lost a couple of family members. So anyway, not in a very good mental space. And then this happened. Because the one thing that was giving me joy, वहाँ पे भी ये होने लग गया. So I kind of lost my motivation for a while. I was like, I'll probably not create content now. Like it is probably not for me. And I didn't create content for like 15 days straight. But then again, like I talked to my friends and family, and then slowly got back into the game, and it's fine. Like now those things don't affect me, but at the time it did take a toll on
Would
me.
you want to name them? We'll bleep
No,
it
I
out.
think I'm good. It's fine. I talked to them afterwards, actually. I tried to clarify that a year after. They didn't even remember that happened. But it's fine. I talked to them and they apologized, so it's fine. Let it be. But at the time it did take a toll on me.
Okay, and what about brands? You work with, I know you work with a lot of brands. You work with,
Yeah.
you work with the top of the top fintech brands.
I work with the brands I love. That's the end line. Like, if they don't reach out to them, I reach out to them. I'm like, bro, karna hai kya? Bro, saste mein also I'll do. Because I genuinely love your product so much. A lot of brands have said no also. Like, there are few brands that I love, and I've actively tried reaching out to them. They've said no. Because they're not doing a campaign, it doesn't make sense for them. So that has also happened, but most brands have been open to the idea, and for that I'm super grateful.
And what has been the worst experience working with
Also,
a
this
brand?
was again when I started out. So
Okay.
this was when I didn't know what a contract was, and like, I didn't know how working with a brand function. This was before I was with an agency. So this is back in June of 2021. I remember this because I was with an agency since July 2021.
Okay.
With Finet. So I remember a brand reached out to me, not a very popular brand. They reached out to me saying that we just want to do like an Instagram live with you. And they coded commercials which were probably not okay, but at the time I didn't even know what to code. They probably were giving me like 1,000, 2,000 rupees when I had an audience of like 20,000. So probably that was not the fair amount, but I just said yes.
At that point, you didn't know what it was.
I just said yes. Yeah, we will consider this. And they said, okay, great. But then they never got back to me for a week. So I thought that, okay, probably things didn't go through and that's fine. But the topic that they suggested for the Instagram live, the only mistake I made was I made a reel on that topic. And that HR went crazy on me. She was like, this is so unethical. This was a topic very popular. The topic was tax harvesting. मतलब ऐसा भी नहीं है कि कोई बहुत ही rocket science topic है. So she was like, you copied our topic. I was like, how do you don't own that topic? I can talk about it whenever I want to. So, but at the time I got really scared because they were like, we'll take legal action against you because this is all on email.
1,000-2,000 रुपए के लिए.
And I was like, dude, like, and not even about money. The fact was that they were like, how did you talk about the topic that we mentioned कि हमें उस पे Instagram live करना है. मैंने बोला तो आप वैसे भी कर लो ना, क्या हो गया? मतलब it's not like mutually exclusive to each other. But yeah, that woman went ballistic on me. And I remember I was like, bro, what the fuck is happening? But then the good part is that having like an OG freelancer in the house, like my dad, helps a lot. Because पूरा दिन I was crying. I was like, shit यार, मेरे पे तो legal case हो जाएगा. और फिर मैंने अपने पापा को बताया. And he was like, अबे चुप करके खाना खाओ यार, क्या बकवास कर रहे हो? तो then he explained to me कि यार ऐसे तो business में ये तो होता ही रहता है. Like when you run your own business, you come across these obstacles almost every single day. Like he said, I've been in this, like what I do, I've been in this line of business for 25 years. We get legal notices for no reason at all. But like it's part of the process. Just get over it. So I think just like his nonchalant behavior just made me believe कि चलो उतना serious नहीं है. So then I just moved on. But I remember that day I was like कि shit यार हमें कोई court वोट ना ले जाए. But I obviously that I don't think that anymore. But at the time, because I didn't know how contracts functioned, I didn't know कि कैसे brand से deal करते हैं.
You're new to all everything.
That was my first brand deal ever actually.
Oh.
So I didn't even know what to ask.
First brand deal and what an experience.
Yeah. So I think that's when Ayush reached out to me कि भाई, do you want to join an agency? I was like, हाँ भाई बताओ मेरे को बस sign कहाँ करना है, because I had such a bad experience with my first one. So yeah. But that's the only bad experience I've had with the brand as such. Other than that, now I make it a point as much as I possibly can. I try to talk to the team in advance even before I go live with the product. Try to understand the product a little better. Try to understand the team a little better. The founder, okay, what's your vision like? Would I use the product or not? And I use the product and then I go back with like the worst criticism possible. I'm like, मेरे को पता है audience ये बोलने वाली है, तो आप मेरे को बताओ. And these are valid questions. आप मेरे को बताओ कि इसका आंसर क्या है. And if they don't have a valid answer, I push them. I don't like shy away from asking difficult questions, which is something I think I covered earlier also.
Correct.
But yeah, but I think most brands appreciate it. So yeah, that's the game now.
Got it. Okay. I think we've had a good conversation about everything,
I
right?
think so.
One last thing that I want to dabble into is the crypto market.
Okay.
Everyone now, before every Tom, Dick and Harry was promoting crypto.
Right.
Then regulations came in. Crypto promotion band ho gaya.
Right.
I think now it's kicking off again, if I'm not wrong. Crypto promotions.
Like it's not as big as it used to be back in like 2021 or 2022. In fact, like beginning first 6 months of 2022 also. I remember getting like 10 crypto brand deals a month.
Wow.
And saying no to all 10 and like broke your heart because they were like
huge amount of
money, right? But I said I only worked with like the crypto exchange that I was personally using at the time. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I didn't really endorse any other crypto brand.
So what are your thoughts on crypto? Like,
Yeah, I am actually very confused. I'll be very honest, because the thing is, sometimes I feel that okay, it can be the next big thing, but I also think that sometimes it can prove to be the biggest scam ever. It can prove to be like a Ponzi scheme.
correct.
Just like a better articulated and better designed Ponzi scheme. So the thing is, have I invested my money in crypto? Yes. In the exchange that I promoted, I use that same exchange.
Your
And
first viral content was you showing your dad.
crypto portfolio, exactly. So that was the brand that I was working with. I was using anyway. So when they reached out, I was like, sure, why not? But have I lost money in crypto? Yes. And also, I think it's such a dynamic field that nobody really knows anything. If you remember, 1 year back, NFT was all the rage, and everybody, like the top search became, okay, how do I buy an NFT or how do I create an NFT? But I never really saw any real value in NFT, to be
You
very
know
honest.
what? I'm not going to name the person, but then there was one creator who you know very well who basically launched their NFT.
Yeah, a lot of creators did.
He basically launched his NFT and I was really interested in it. There were 3 NFTs I think he was going to be putting out.
Okay.
And each of them had some use case to it.
Okay.
One was like collaborating with him and one was meeting him and stuff like
Oh,
that.
that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. But I remember one of it went for auction. When one of it went on auction, I bid for it, but then it was way too high, so I didn't I didn't push too much towards it. But then there was no follow up to it as far as I understood. I don't know on the back end if there was anything. Ideally, if there was, he would have shown it as far as I understand it.
Okay, I'm not too sure about it also.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot of such cases amongst other creators as well.
Yeah.
Being finance influencer yourself,
Yes.
what is the responsibility of you or other creators towards their audience, and should the audience really rely on you? I mean, I know it's like blatant, but then
Yeah, that's a good question.
should they just rely on you for finance tips? I mean, not to like not you, but like who are you to be
influencers.
To be say giving advice to people?
True, and I don't think that you should take it as advice. I think what our responsibility as finance creators is to tell you, okay, these are the avenues that are available. This is a new product in the market, or these are the options available. Even if it's not a paid partnership, sometimes we get a lot of hate on just showing our views on your credit card also. A credit card that I right now have in my wallet, if I speak up about that, I get a lot of hate. I genuinely do. Because people are like, oh, you're encouraging like debt trap and everything. So even that happens. Even though it's not a paid partnership, it's like my honest opinion. But the thing is, again, because the thing with personal finances, it's very personal. So the thing is, what my current situation is in life, it might be very different from what Rohit's life is. So I could have like a loan going on my house, whereas you have nothing. So what my advice is could be just my opinion on what's happening.
It's your
in my
point
life.
of view of how
Yeah.
to do things. It's not necessary that
It will not fit all. That's the
Correct.
thing. So when a finance influencer is telling you about a product, or if they're telling you something which you think, see, if they're telling you like about a tax section which is applicable for everybody, it's fine. It's like a factual thing.
Correct.
But if you think thoda sa bhi opinion aa raha hai, then most finance influencers, what I've seen is they provide sources of where
Correct.
they got that number from.
Correct.
I do that myself, and I've seen most creators do it. So I credit where credit is due, right? So go fact check those things, and if you have questions, most finance influencers will also answer you. Like, I personally make it a point that if somebody says that, okay, but this is also true, then I'll probably take out the time to respond to it. So if you have questions, try asking the right questions. Or if you don't want to ask the questions, go back and DYOR. Like, do your own research also. And because at the end of the day, it's your money. While most influencers, there are heavy regulations also in the market. Please understand that we can't also promote things just like that, just because the brand is giving us money. There are a lot of regulations in the back end which people aren't aware of. There are SEBI guidelines that we have to abide by. There are RBI guidelines that we have to abide by. And recently, a lot of guidelines came out, no?
Correct.
Like, literally 4 to 5
Yeah,
days
I want to
back.
get to that after this. Yeah.
Right. So, we are abiding by that in every way. And
You might be
shape.
abiding by that, but I don't think most of the finance influencers are.
So then make them accountable. As an audience, tell them the audience is very smart. I've seen whenever an influencer doesn't mention it's a paid partnership, they're like, is this paid partnership in the comments? Because the audience is very smart now. They're not very dumb also.
Correct.
Because this is not like a bottle of shampoo ki bas rakha hua hai ki haan guys इससे मैं use करती हूँ और मेरे बाल silky हो गए. This is also where their money is going.
Their
so
money
it's,
is going,
It's only valid that they ask that question. Yeah, if I were in their shoes, I would be doing the exact same thing.
Correct.
So, which is why it's good to ask questions. It's good to know whether it's a paid partnership or whether it's like organic opinion. Good to ask that, but also understand that if you're following the right content creators in this space, they will probably test out the product before they, number one, speak up about it. Number two, they probably their own money is involved in it, if not directly or
Indirectly.
even as an angel investor.
Correct.
Right? So it could be that. So figure out what their intentions are behind like promoting that product. Once you figure that out, figure out whether that's the right product for you. If it's, say, for example, an alternative investing platform,
Correct.
and you are not in a position to put money in like an alternative class of investment, which is, say, way riskier than equity also, you should probably not go for it. It's just, we're just using the platform to tell people about a product. It could be a right fit for you. It could not be a right fit for you. So doing that analysis on yourself is also very, very important.
Got it.
And then last step, as always, is do your own research also.
Of course.
See, I'll be very honest. See, the thing is, with all equity platforms that come out, or even debt platforms that come out, they have to abide by SEBI guidelines. They have to abide by a lot of regulations anyway, because that's a very heavily regulated market.
Correct.
But when it comes to a platform like a space like crypto, where regulations were not that heavy or even still aren't, that's where, the most ambiguous
Correct.
situation occurs. So that's where even you need to ask harder questions.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Got it. So, okay, last thing that I want to get into are the regulations that have come on content creators now.
Yes.
The government wants to put fines for misappropriation of advertisements and stuff like
Correct.
that. This actually has been existed forever,
Yeah.
for celebrities especially.
Right.
But they've never been implemented. What do you think about, like, are you actually looking heavily into what these regulations are, or you're just like, yeah, whatever?
The latter, because we're already doing it. That's the thing. So if you even go back to my reel a year back, which was a year back, you'll still see the paid partnership tab. You'll still see the fact that it's clearly mentioned that it's just an opinion, guys. It's not like advice.
Got it.
Because even if I'm a chartered accountant, or even if, no matter what degree I have, I cannot understand your individual situation
Correct.
from like behind a screen, right? So
Correct.
you should not blindly put your money regardless of whoever is giving you that advice. Even if it's your own father, you should probably not take that advice blindly because he doesn't understand your risk appetite, your time horizon, by when do you need that money back, and a lot of other variables that come into that equation, right? So the thing is, again, understand your situation, do your own research, and the guidelines that have come into place should be more strict because I've seen a lot of creators already abiding by it, but the creators who aren't, I think this is much needed.
Correct.
Because when you see an ad on the television, you can very easily figure out it's an ad. But when you see it on a platform like Instagram, sometimes there's this ambiguous वाला scenario कि अच्छा ये opinion है उनका या फिर actually में वो use करते हैं. तो कई बार it backfires also. Sometimes I actually use the product and not even paying me money. And I say that, oh guys, this is a good product. And people are like, oh, you should mention when it's a paid partnership. I'm like, bro, I wish it was a paid partnership,
Correct.
but it's not. Like, so that's the thing. But no, when it's a paid partnership, in 99.999% of the cases, it will be very, very clearly mentioned that it's a paid partnership.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is a good way to end the podcast. Thank you so much, Shreya, for
Obviously,
your time.
thank you so much for having me, Rohit. It was so much fun.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't
did, I
make
did.
you too uncomfortable.
No,
Yeah. Awesome. See you guys. Bye.